Welcome back guys. In this video we tried the GeForce GTX 1660 in the lab PC. This will be a short review of the 1660 Ti as well as an attempt to reach the limit of the Xeon X5670 in the lab PC. For a quick recap, and you can find all of these videos in the channel, the lab PC started with a GeForce GTX 590 that's period appropriate to the system. For the Cyberpunk video we used the GTX 1060, the 3GB model, and then we paired the Xeon X5670 with the GTX Titan for some game tests. After that we tested the GTX 960 in the lab PC, and today we are going to use the most powerful GPU that has ever been in the lab PC, the GTX 1660 Ti. So let's see if that video card pushes enough pixels to reach the limit of the Xeon X5670, an 11-year-old 6-core processor. The GeForce GTX 1660 Ti is a good card, but I find it a bit strange. It came out almost simultaneously with the RTX 2060 in the beginning of 2019 for $279 versus $349 for the 2060. So as far as performance and progression goes, it sits between the 1060 and the 2060, but there are cheaper models like the 1660 and the 1650. To me, it's already too many models for a short range of performance difference. But then, Nvidia came out and released the 1660 Super and the RTX 2060 Super. And this is the current lineup for Nvidia's middle range video cards. So this is what you get on the GeForce GTX 1660 Ti package. The TU116 chip. The TU they're giving a spoiler that this is a chip on the Turing architecture. It's fabricated on 12nm node. The core has a base clock of 1500 MHz, boosting up to 1770 with the memory clock also at 1500 MHz. Testing this video card will be quite a challenge for the lab PC. Its 11-year-old Xeon 5670 and the 12 gigs of triple channel RAM should just about touch the bottleneck region. So for the runs with the 1660 Ti, it's better to have all processor threads on the screen, because at any point one of them could reach 100%, causing the CPU to bottleneck the GPU. I figured since we're trying to reach the limit of the Xeon X5670, we should start with the easiest game for it, and that will be the oldest game in the lineup, GTA 5. Keep in mind that for this video, all games are being tested in 1080p. So released in 2013, this game is probably one of the modern games to have the longest lifespan. This thing is still played online after 8 years of existence. Performance in this game varies a lot. With everything cranked to the max, the game was reaching lows of 35 frames per second. So I decided to take the MSAA setting from 8 to 0, getting the game over the 50 FPS mark for most of the time. Next game is Fallout 4. This game has VSync on by default. At maximum settings, it stays at 60 FPS. Although I did get crashes and later found out that there is an issue with Turing cards and this game. If you want to have a smooth experience with a Turing card, you need to disable the weapon debris effect on the launcher settings. Either way, the game poses no threat to the GPU or the CPU. Witcher 3 was released in 2015, but it's also a timeless classic, and I didn't think this was going to pose any kind of a challenge. But I was wrong. We can see at least one thread reaching 89% usage during the game. The game has a 60 FPS cap, and it stays above 50 most of the time, even though the processor is close to the limit. Still not an issue. Of course we are running one of the best games ever made, and I'm sure that if we ran the original Mafia from 2002, we would get about 100,000 frames per second, but this is the remaster, and the remaster is quite demanding. Now this game is beautiful, and with settings set to high, this combo does a great job at running it. Furthest I saw one of the cores going was 91%, that's pretty close to the limit. But we're still in good shape with frames per second over 60 most of the time. Okay, now we're getting into the big leagues, the bad boys. The games that give me nightmares and make me wake up in the middle of the night calling for the return of 3D FX. Here we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. With settings set to very high, there really isn't much stress on the CPU. At this point, the GPU is not pumping enough frames, and quite frankly, playing the game at 30 FPS with a $300 video card is a bit underwhelming. So lowering the graphics settings to high buys us a little bit higher FPS, but still with huge drops in the village. This leads me to believe this game is hugely GPU bound, and there is still quite a bit of leeway in the Xeon X5670 for more powerful video cards, specifically in this game. For the last monster under the bed, we have Cyberpunk 2077. With the high preset, the game runs most of the time over 40 FPS, but it does dip sometimes while driving. Now you can see how heavily this game is taxing our Xeon by how much it's using each thread. This leads me to believe two things. One, this is the most multi-thread optimized game I have ever seen. And two, the Xeon is definitely a bottleneck, with many times most of the threads being over 80% and sometimes multiple threads over 90% use. Sheesh, that's like mining Cyberpunk coins. In conclusion, I wish the 1660 Ti performed a little bit closer to the GTX 2060. Not to say I'm disappointed, but I wish it delivered a little bit more, of course, considering it doesn't have ray tracing. Another conclusion is that for video cards that are more powerful than the 1660 Ti, the lab PC with the Xeon X5670 is definitely a bottleneck, especially considering the likes of Cyberpunk. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you got some useful information or at least have some fun. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.